So what would you say to the people, and I probably should have asked you this maybe 20 minutes ago, because I think a lot of people watch this and go, all right, guy's making a lot of sense, but there was a time when racism was systemic. So I'm sure you would argue that you believe that there are racists today,
Yes.
right? That racism exists, a certain amount of people don't like you because you're black, period, and a certain amount of people don't like Asian people or gay people or Muslim people or whatever. Okay, there are bigots out there. Now, it's not built into the system anymore, but does the system owe anything to black people for past grievances? For the fact that most black people that are here were brought here, not voluntarily.
I do think they owe, but how would you figure it? How would you figure this out? I think they owe because I see what they did to the Jews, and that they're continually paying them in their generations. If you don't pay this group, but you will pay that one, then you have to explain why.
Wait, you're talking about like Germany,
like what happened in Germany,
reparations to Jews after the Holocaust.
Yeah. So if that can happen, if what happened with the Japanese who were interred here in a little while, they were compensated. Mm-hmm. The Indians were compensated. Black Americans have to be compensated for something, I would assume, but then the logistics of it. Who pays what? Where does it go? Who actually had lineage? Because if I'm not mistaken, only 2 to 8% of whites actually owned slaves. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like everybody had slaves. So how do you calculate this money and who actually gets it? Because not every black person that's in America came from a slave either.
And is there also an inherent problem that even if you did that, which I agree, it would be an undertaking that would be beyond imagination.
It'd be a logistical nightmare.
But let's say you could figure it out and you could get some consensus on it. Not that we can get consensus on anything in America, but let's say we get some consensus on it and people said, okay, this is basically right. Is the other problem that it actually feeds exactly what you've been talking about is the biggest problem here, which is, all right, you throw money at it. You don't know what people are going to do with their money. They'd be entitled to do whatever they want with it. Some people are going to buy a car. Some people are going to waste it on booze. Some people might invest it in education and all that. But that you actually didn't solve a problem. You just you enriched victim culture, which I know sounds terrible in a situation like this, but that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle's skit did it perfectly. I don't know if you've ever seen the skit where he was showing the blacks got reparations.
Oh, yeah.
And Cadillac sales went through the roof, and it was all ridiculous money thrown at ridiculous stuff. If you think about the black community, I think they did a study, and the GDP of blacks in America, if they separated out and became their own country, it would be the 9th wealthiest country on the planet. So that means there's a lot of money going through the hands of black people in America. They can't say it's not. When they can spend $10 billion a year on weave alone.
On weave?
I swear to God.
$10 billion?
$10 billion a year. In Jamaica, it's a $1 billion industry, and they're poor. So you have women, right now you will see women on Instagram and they all look like they're rich because they all got their weave in their hair and they all do out. There was a woman during the riots of Philando Castile who was shot by the police. His girlfriend was there. And she says, stop burning. CNN did the whole, they didn't play what was actually said.
Video. Unbelievable.
Right. So they made it seem like she was a victim when she was saying go after white people.
Yeah, which
but they cut that part out.
They cut. Yeah, wait. Let's just lay that out real quick. Can you just lay it out real quick for people that didn't see it? And we'll put a link to it below because it's unbelievable what they cut.
Yeah, I did this video and they cut out the part where she was saying go after white people, go after white businesses. We need to go after white people.
This is during the riots.
During the riots, and she's standing up. So she's inciting a riot against white people.
Yeah.
CNN had the footage, 100% of the footage. They cut it to where it looked like she's calling for peace, but that isn't what she was calling for. She was saying, as black people don't do anything to each other in our quote unquote stuff, let's go do it to the white people.
And they literally cut at the end of that sentence.
Oh, and they made her out to be a benevolent figure at this point. Even though she's grieving from the loss of her companion, she's calling for peace. But that isn't what she was doing. But one of the funniest things she said was, we need our shit. We need our weave. And I keep playing that back and forth. Because like, what person says this? This is a mother. These are women. And if you look at most riots or most of these so-called, this guy got shot or killed by the police, if you look on the streets, it's a bunch of women. Now, where do all these women come from? All these cities where this violence is overrun by single black mothers who are raising these children in these environments. So nobody's going to point out that single black mothers in almost every violent city across the United States overwhelmingly are raising the children. That would be an immediate link. If you had a link to where every police chief in every one of these cities were white, and all of the educators were white, and the kids were dumb and violent, we would say, well, look who's over them. But we won't do it when it comes to liberal-run cities and single mother-run neighborhoods. We will not point out that that one link is everywhere. And why? CNN helped perpetuate it. That's why I don't like liberals, because they're perpetuating the victimhood, like you said, the low expectations.
Yeah.
They're telling them, the SAT is culturally biased. Yet Sue Young, who was 8 years old when she came over here, aced it. How can people who've been here for 400 years, if you've been under the thumb of white people, the one thing you should know is the culture of white people. So that I should pass any test to tell me what white people are doing. Yes, they're murdering, hanging.
Right,
Like,
you
I should know that.
the rhythm of it.
But we are saying to black people it's culturally biased, but people who come from another culture can ace this test? You're telling them that you can be no more than what you currently are. And that's why you have generations of poverty.
So you mentioned that you supported Trump. How powerful that, when he said in that speech, when he talked about race, when he said, what do you have to lose? When I saw it live and I thought, I got what he was doing, but I thought it felt to me, and this may be a little of my own liberal, it felt like a little too much to me. Because it was almost like, it's so horrible for you. When it's not horrible for everybody, obviously. Now, maybe he was talking about he was just zoning in on the people that are really in the inner cities that are, as you said, are under the thumb of these Democrat liberal policies and all that stuff. But you must have heard that and thought, holy shit, this is it. This guy said it.
He's touching the mindset. Remember what we had talked to leading up to here, that you'll have someone like Jesse Jackson come out and just speak, or Al Sharpton speak to black people and say, well, you're doing horrible in America. And even if somebody is, you think about it, you got these rappers who got Bentleys and making songs about how they're so rich, and they'll be like, yes, you're right. We're having a horrible here. So it's the mindset of just because you're black, even when you're rich, you're going to have a poor mindset. So if black people can tap into that and get blacks to feel like perpetual victims, even when they're doing well, i.e. what Jesse Williams, who has a white mother, stood up in front of the Oscars and said, we black people are magic. Like, what does your white mom do when you're saying this? She's like,
yeah, she's going, uh-oh.
Like somebody should have tapped her on the shoulder and said, get out.
Yeah. He still might be taking care of his white mom, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
There might be something.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's a weird thing to even have to do that, because half of you is black, the whole of you is black, and you have to act like even your white side is still bad, and then the white people, because of liberal guilt, I just slept with a black guy, that's all I did, and that was my reparations. Like, it's weird, and you watch this whole dynamic that's being put out there. So I liked when Donald Trump did it, because they're pushing that we all blacks have the same experience. You know, if you're black, the comedian always talks about how rough his childhood was, and the crowd says, yeah, my mama used to beat me with a curling iron. My mama beat me with an iron. Like, everybody's telling a story about how physically abusive their childhood was.
Cosby used to do the thing about his wife coming in with the broom, beating him like it was a hockey stick. Yeah.
So violence is the thing in these communities, and everyone relates to it. So Donald Trump did what they were doing. Well, since they all relate to this, let me ask them the question. Heck, I've done it in Dayton. I've told a girl, hey, I can't be any worse than the decisions you've made in the past. And it works.
That works?
It does. Yeah, low expectations. But if you sit back and you think about it, he had to touch that. I was glad that he said it.
Yeah.
Because blacks are being told to continue to vote Democrat. But they're getting nothing from it. The black male, again, while I'm talking about males, so no one gives a crap about males. The black male unemployment was up to like 22-something% under Barack Obama. And you talk about it, didn't break it up. So everybody was okay with black males not being able to get a job as long as black females can get a job. We're the only culture in America that's upside down, meaning the women run the society. The women are the power brokers. In the black community, the men, they don't have power. Through the 80s and 90s, black women were going on TV shows like Donahue, Jesse Raphael saying, we're educated and we can't find any good men because the black men are either gay or in jail. This was the 80s and the 90s. So black boys, how can you grow up to want to be a man when all you hear is, I don't need a man? You didn't even want to be a man.
So Trump then, you liked it when you heard it. Now he has Ben Carson, who's a neurosurgeon, as the health the housing secretary, which is a little bizarre to me.
Yes, because he didn't want to be. He didn't want to be the Surgeon General. He said he wasn't qualified for that. Wait a minute, what?
I know, this is a little confusing. Okay, right? Like, he seems like he would have been a little more qualified for that than the housing thing. But okay, I'll go with it. By the way, you could see a tremendous amount of that soft racism with liberals, because Ben Carson, who again, the guy was a pretty terrible candidate. He always looks like he's sleeping, he speaks slowly, and all that stuff. But then Trump hires him, so a black man now moves up. You'd think the liberals would all be like this, but instead now he's a sellout and all the stuff that you were saying that you get called and all that. So okay, so putting that aside, so he's got Ben Carson, and then he has Steve Harvey said, he's going to work with him and help the inner city. I suspect they're actually going to do something. I think Trump is a businessman, and for all my reservations about him, I think he's probably going to have them come up with some plan to go in there and do it. Have you seen any evidence of that yet?
Well, here's the problem. Steve Harvey had to immediately switch and turn against Donald Trump, because he, again, was worried about being called a coon and had one of his friends, D.L. Hughley, call him out for just meeting with the guy, for just meeting with him. Now, mind you, they praised Dr. Martin Luther King, who just met with the president. That's all he did. The president, at the time, you didn't know what was going to happen. He met with them. And a lot of them were using him, the liberals, were using him as we're benevolent to blacks and we love them. And behind the closed doors, they were saying, we'll have these niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Now, mind you, they know this. They understand how the game is being played. But they turned this guy who just met with him against him to where he had to become one of his biggest allies. I don't like Trump now, and I just went there and just to appease this monolith called the Black Thought.
So is Harvey not even working with him anymore on this?
Nope.
Is that? Oh, really? I didn't even know that part. So there you go.
Because of the backlash he got from black people. Black people just feel like there's this one black guy, well, a few of them. They were supposed to be these pro-black guys, and they were telling black people, don't vote in the election, your vote doesn't matter. So then Donald Trump wins and they get upset. How does that make sense? You literally told people not to vote, so why should you care about the outcome? As a black person, if you're telling black people, do not vote, then you should not care about the outcome.
By the way, not all of this is purely racial, because even a guy like remember, was it the Uber CEO who met with Trump and then got a huge backlash? So then he
had to turn. Yeah.
He stepped away and said, I'm going to be off the Economic Advisory Council or whatever it was. So even that goes to the mindset of these people that in some ways supersedes race. Mm-hmm. You're giving me a racial example there, but it goes to just a general. I think Elon Musk said something about that. He said something to the effect of, guys, I'm loosely doing this, but he was like, look, he's president. I can affect more change if I'm in there with him rather than just screaming about it. So in a way, it's really just a complete lack of maturity, right? Like, it's like, if you want to change things, just screaming and burning things down and, stopping speakers and all that nonsense, that doesn't do anything except embolden your enemies. What does things is actually sitting with people that you don't like.
Yeah, and they were asking for the Republicans to do it under Barack Obama. You need to sit down with him and work with him. They're making it hard for him. Well, you're making it hard for Trump, and you're doing it on purpose, and you're doing it en masse. All of the liberals are saying, let's just make it difficult for Milo to be on a campus. Let's make it difficult for Tommy to be on YouTube. Let's make it difficult for any voice that may even ask the question, because a lot of us are just asking the question. Think about it. We're not out in the streets beating anyone. We're not advocating the beating of anyone. We're asking the question, is it as simple as how it's presented to us? Is it as simple as Trump is a racist? Is it as simple as Republicans are xenophobes? It can't be that simple because I don't know what a xenophobe is. But is it as simple as these things? And asking these questions are shaking that tree. And I guess the people who are in that tree hiding don't want to actually fall out. So they're going to do all they can to make you stop shaking that tree. The truth is what we should, and all of us should want as American citizens. And we all should want our president to kind of succeed. Because if the president succeeds, then truly we will succeed, right?
Yeah. Sam Harris, who was completely against Trump, wrote a piece after the election or did a thing on his podcast where he said, look, now the guy is the pilot of the plane. You want that plane to crash? I don't think so. And he was 100% against him.
Mm-hmm. But we can't get that. I think this is what America's pushing. This whole find a way to divide people. Race, class, gender, and a lot of this stuff is preferences. Like, you can't even have a preference around a liberal. A liberal homosexual says, well, you should accept my lifestyle. But if you say, well, I accept your lifestyle, I just don't want my kid to be one. Well, Well, wait a minute. I accept the fact that you want to be homeless. I don't want my kid to be homeless. I accept the fact that you want to smoke crack. I don't want my kid to smoke crack. Hell, I have 2 daughters. I don't want them dating someone who's poverty stricken. What does that make me? I don't understand that we can't even have a preference anymore when life used to be about preferences and abilities. I have no problem with a white person saying, well, my granddad was white, my grandma was white. I kind of want my white kid to marry a white person. Why is that a problem? I don't understand that.
That's going to get you in a whole world of hurt for that. That'll be the clip that people will take out of this and go, you see, now he's aligning with the white nationalists or something.
Yeah, but have you ever noticed with black people, we get to say it all the time. Black dudes get to stand up and say, I wouldn't date a white woman. He's praised for it, and he gonna say it in public. So why is it that we can say we want to keep our black first and black businesses? Why can we say that? But if anybody else says it, it's wrong. Why can you have black pride, brown pride, gay pride, but not white pride? Because that's racist.
What do we do from here? What do we do from here? Like, I think most people, I know a lot of my audience is going to hear you, really hear you, and go, this is the type of stuff that I think needs to be heard more. And I think that the group of people that are talking about this stuff is actually growing. I do see this. At the same time, the people who don't want to hear us are getting more and more hysterical because that's all they got left. Where do you see all this going, especially in the framework of having Trump as president?
We have to have more dialogue like this. I think when people see you and me, you and I.
Uh-oh, well now, well, I'm sure there was a systemic reason that you...
Right, it's because of the way that racism worked. But if you and I...
Trust me, if they got all the linguistic things that I screw up here, it would not be pretty.
If more people like you and I, Crowder and all of us, Mark Levine, all of us just got together. And it doesn't matter what side we're on. If we could just have the conversation. Because Bill Maher used to be good at saying, let's just have the conversation. And I still like that he will call out those idiots, the liberals on college campuses. But it's kind of the only reason he's calling them out is because they've affected him and his work. So as long as they don't affect him and his work, he'll side with them. But if more of us could have these conversations and not have them in Jerry Springer style formats to where it's you're liberal and I'm a conservative and we're going to fight, because we have more in common than the world wants us to believe. The bigger the powers that be, they're wanting us to not have real dialogue. They're wanting black people to feel like white people are against you and you owe me something. Michael Eric Dyson said, yes, I believe white people should pay. Maybe you should give black people a computer.
I was there. You saw that on Bill Maher? Is that where you're getting that from, or has he said it before?
No, he said it on Bill Maher.
Yeah, I was there that night in the audience, and I saw this. Everyone applauded when he said it, and I'm watching this woman. There was like a 60-year-old white woman in front of me applauding. Yes, you should give a computer to you should give a computer to a black kid. I'm looking around. All these people are applauding. There's virtually no black people in the crowd. I don't know, maybe a couple, but it's all white people. Yep. Everyone's applauding. I'm looking around, going, are any of you going to give a computer to a black person? Like, you're all just doing it so you think you feel good about yourself. Yep. You're not really doing it. But I saw that line, and I thought Bill was going to go for him on it. And they let it go. They just let it be. And I know as an interviewer, sometimes you let some things go. It's just the nature of talking to people. And for him, he has time constraints and all that. But I just thought it was hilarious. Give a black kid a computer.
Like, I thought it was a
walking
joke.
Around going, well, he'd take my phone.
Well, let me ask you, as a white person in the audience.
Yes.
Did you kind of look around to see is he joking? Like, is this a part where we laugh, or is he seriously saying we should do it?
Everyone applauded so quickly that if it was a joke, it was, we know it wasn't a joke, but,
Because I would have thought as a white person, but maybe he's playing with us right now, because that makes no sense that we just walk out and give a random black kid a computer. Look, it doesn't.
By the way, for the record, in his defense, he was saying that he didn't believe that reparations were necessary in a traditional form. Mm-hmm. He was saying what you could do in your own personal life. But in a way, that made it funnier because then you have all them applauding and you know that none of them are giving away their MacBook.
Yeah, nobody's doing that. Maybe everybody walks out and give out their iPhone. Just give it out when you walk out of here. Just give it to a black kid.
with that?
I got 3 of them. I don't need it.
Can I get one of yours?
But the funny thing is, you're offering something to black kids that they already have. Even when they're poor, they already have access to the internet. Half of Twitter was black people, even though only 13% of society is black. They're spending a lot of time online. How do you think I keep getting flagged down? It's not a shortage of black people online. So why are they offering them something that they can't use? Something that is going to make what they're doing already worse. There's a movie out called, it's coming out this summer, called Girls Trip, starring Queen Latifah. I just want you to go and watch the trailer for it. It's one of the most disgusting trailers ever. of these middle-aged black women saying all this sexually perverse stuff. And it's a trailer for a movie. And I'm watching and I could see myself sinking into my seat because I was at the movie theater with a bunch of white people. And they were laughing because they love to see those black girls be sassy. Well, that's ruining our community. And having a movie about them going around and having irresponsible sex, why would you need that in a group that's filled with STDs and single motherhood? Why would you teach this? Why would that be the movie you put out? Because there's a mindset that's being pushed by these liberals to tell blacks. Basically, liberals are like the pets of blacks are the pets of liberals. They just like to have us around, but as long as they can feel above us, then it's cool. Because I've heard more racist comments come from liberal whites than conservative whites. And it will be all over small disagreements or ideologies. And I'm thinking, surely you could agree with me without calling me the N-word because you're liberal, right? Oh, well, that's how you're acting, so they'll justify it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. But you're supposed to be above this. But apparently they're not when it comes to disagreement of ideologies.
Yeah. Listen, we could go on, but unfortunately I got another interview to do. So we're going to leave this. I didn't look down once, which I always say is a good sign of a solid interview. So one more thing for you, and then I'm going to direct people to where to find you, but we don't even know if these places are going to exist by the time we post this because YouTube's bumping you and Twitter's bumping you and everything else. You are doing a movie about this, right? Did you raise some money on a movie?
Yeah, called A Fatherless America.
Yeah. And
it should be out this summer, and I'm looking forward to that. We're talking about, and not just blacks, just A Fatherless America, how fathers are being pushed out of the lives of their children. And it's become a norm that a child does not need his father. When you are married to a woman, you see your kids every day. You get a divorce, you see your kids every other weekend. How's that fair? That the judge goes into it and the mother has to be a complete horrible parent for the father to have any chance to get full custody. Yeah. When many men in America would take full custody of their children and not even ask for child support.
Yeah. The way you're doing the movie, are you transcending race on that? Because that actually is a male thing, because that's probably just as equal in the white community, right?
Yeah, I had plenty of white males who were on the streets, and I went all across the United States, and many of them talked about how society was messing them up. One guy, we helped him out for my show. He was looking for $2,000 just to get a car because were going to repo his old car. He couldn't afford to pay for it. He was married, got a divorce, had 2 children. He was getting, from his check, he was getting a total of $51 after they took all this. So he couldn't even afford a car. And while he put up his GoFundMe, it had been up 5 months when I found it. He had $375 in 5 months when he was just asking for a drive-around car because they were going to take his car. Within 3 days, we got him $8,000. And this was a white guy. And he was struggling because he said his wife, when she left, she took the kids and went to another state. He hadn't seen them in years. And this is a story that a lot of men are telling, black, white, or other. But no one cares that these men can't see their kids. They say, well, just keep fighting. You should spend all of your money to keep fighting. This guy, one guy in the movie, went from living in a mansion to living in a studio apartment after a divorce. His wife still lives in the mansion now. But he has to pay the same amount of money he was paying 2 years ago, even though his job got downgraded, because the judge says you have the potential to make that money, so I'm not going to change how much you have to pay in child support.
Wow. Well, listen, it's powerful stuff, and I love doing this because I think a lot of this, it flips conventional thinking on its head, which is what most people need a little bit of, because people are so locked into the way they think. So let's get you back on when the movie comes out, for sure.
All right.
And we'll keep the conversation going. And for you guys, hopefully his YouTube channel still exists by the time we post this, but it's youtube.com/SotomayorTV2. Or yes,
go to
you take it away.
Yes, or you guys can find me on my website, which they haven't figured out a way to take down yet. And that's SotomayorTV.com or just TommySotomayor.com, and it will take you to me.
Done and done.